other day. Reading a book? Yes, it's all about civilization or something. A nutty kind of a book. Do you know that the guy says that machinery is going to take the place of every profession?
What do you say?
No.
Tomorrow night?
No.
Next year?
No.
Good. Because by me it's this way. The longer they know, the harder they yes.
Well, I don't want to be honorable with you unless it's absolutely necessary.
It's the Al Travis Show, and we're lucky to have our next guest on. She is Senator Julia Coleman. Senator, how are you?
I'm doing great, Al. Thanks for having me back.
Can I call BS on that answer already, please? How can you be doing great? I don't mean to be. That's kind of cruel, Al. You sit there and say great. You smile. You're always saying this stuff. How do you get up every day, get ready to drive to the office, to state capitol, and know that no matter what you do all day long, not much is going to get done? I would be so frustrated if I was you. I mean, off the charts. How do you smile and go through that and then say to me, "Oh, I'm doing great, Al. How about you?" You
I have
can't
the
be.
same answer for all three of those questions.
Okay.
One, how do I get up every day? My kids wake me up before I'd like to be up every day.
Right.
Drive to St. Paul and work, like we were kind of talking about off air. Even if all I can do is try my best and I get a handful of things done, or I block a handful of things from getting done, my kids and the state they're going to inherit are my motivator for working hard, whether the success is incremental or massive. And how am I smiling every day? Same answer. I get to leave this place at the end of the day.
I mentioned it to Hudson, and I think it was to Shannon Watson as well. I don't say it to you. People have asked me, why did you run for office? I could not do it. The idea of arguing with people, and let's just use fraud. In Al's everyday life of humans that I interact with, there isn't one that says, let's keep the fraud going, right? There's no one on the side of fraud. This has got to be 99% to the one that are frauding. Is that a verb? Frauding. They're the ones who wanted to keep going. So how is this not moving forward? How do we not get an OIG? How is there nothing getting done when it's a 99-1 proposition? And I get it. They want something. Somebody wants something on the other side. That's gamesmanship that hurts Al, and I don't like it.
I agree. And there's no solid evidence, but what you hear repeatedly from the House is that the Senate sends over an OIG bill. House Republicans are on board with the OIG bill. And then House Democrats will find one thing about it or try to amend it. And if they can't get their amendment on, they'll crush it. And the reasoning we've been told is because it's going to take too much authority away from the governor's office. There's not enough. He doesn't have enough control over it. I've never heard the governor say this, but that's kind of the talk around St. Paul. So it is incredibly frustrating. It's also frustrating that we have been putting forth anti-fraud measures before this became national media, we being the Republican Party, and Democrats have not stepped up with efforts until it became big news stories. And so for me, that sparks a little bit, a sprinkle of disingenuousness. And so I do struggle with that. The session is young. I do think we are going to see some fraud prevention measures passed, but what it'll end up being, I'm not sure yet.
All right. You have the, what is it? The AOL, Office of the Independent Auditor. Whatever that
yeah,
office,
the OLA is
OLA.
Senator Michael Kroon and Senator Heather Gustafson have the Office of the Legislative Auditor bill.
Okay, so you have the Office of the Legislative Auditor. So we have one of those. Runs around, take a look at our books, tell you how you can do things better. No one listens to them, right? Because they just don't. The auditor came out and told us that many Department of Human Services work were filling out papers fraudulently. Yeah, okay, that's what we're told. That happens, nothing changes. We have the Optum people that the governor paid to come tell us how to fix things. We had the O'Malley guy that the governor also paid. Take a look around. He came up with a 57-page report. They all seem to come up, we need an independent Office of Inspector General, an independent.
Yes,
and yet, But
I just took a sip of more caffeine because I'm mixing up my acronyms. So yes, we have an Office of the Legislative Auditor. The bill being carried is the OIG, the Office
yeah,
of the Inspector General. So I'm getting my acronyms mixed up here. So I think part of it is you're correct. There are limitations on the auditor's office that we are trying to fix with the Inspector General's office. I've also seen a proposal from one of the state auditor candidates trying to strengthen and give more authority to the Office of the Legislative Auditor in case this OIG bill goes nowhere. But there definitely needs to be a constitutional office or more authority given to an existing one to do more of this investigative work.
but I guess as an outsider just looking in, the governor comes out and says, they send me an OIG bill, I'm signing it. You let me do that. And then the first day when it pops up, the House Democrats put in a bill that basically neuters the whole thing. So Republicans say, no, thank you. We're not going to do it if it's not independent. And the governor's in it. I told you I'd sign it. He doesn't want to sign this bad boy. He's the one making this thing stop dead in the water. You can't tell me after 9 months of terrible fraud news across this state of Minnesota nationwide, one Democrat doesn't see this as it may be a flawed bill, but at least gets us up and running. We can change things if we have to. That really? Not one in 67?
This is what's blown my mind because I've been in the majority and I've been in the minority. And there's a lot of Democrats that campaign as I'm going to be a moderate or I'm going to be an independent voice. And then they turn around and they vote in lockstep and take their marching orders and vote for every single bill or block every single bill and do it in unison. And so there is no moderate Democrat in the state House or the state Senate because they never break rank. When we were in the majority, there would be times members would say, I will not and cannot vote for this. And we'd have to work around that. And so it is amazing to me how there isn't this free thinking streak within the party right now. And I hope that voters see that in November.
Well, somebody's going to have to figure this out. If we get nothing out of this session, I think people will get really angry. I would tell you that if we've been talking about it, if you don't change anything, it stays the same. The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, thinking for a different outcome. We take a person who's been with the Department of Human Services since 2017, 9 years. She was the assistant commissioner for forever. She gets made the interim commissioner for the last year. And now the governor, this is his only thing, is fraud. He just made her commissioner. What changes? This is the woman who sat in one of the committees with the auditor and said, hey, we find many of your people are lying. They're falsifying information. They're backdating things. And she goes, oh, news to me. And nothing changes. Why would the governor put the same people in charge of the same people doing the same thing?
Well,
How
and
is that?
I'll read for you a quote from one of my colleagues. Senator Paul Ecke had the newly appointed DHS commissioner, and I have realized with all of the national DHS news, I have to say, Department of Human Services here in Minnesota, it has a different acronym, and asked her about the fraud and what's going on. And her answer was, I don't think Minnesota has a problem different than any other state in the nation. That is not who I want heading the agency, if that is your mentality. And that is why I put forth a bill last week that gives the legislature the authority, if there is a formal complaint filed against one of the commissioners, to remove them. Because we need to do that. We have to have the ability to do that and say, you're not doing a good job, your governor's not seeing it, and it's time for you to get removed.
See, and on the outside, I like that. The legislature's got to have some way of acting on all this money we're spending. But then I presume they're removed. Governor says, who's next in line? Who's going to keep doing what I want done? And they're just going to keep filling the void. I would throw it out this way. The governor comes up with his proposals to how to fix this. Because fraud's his only thing, by the way. He did not become governor for the third time. He pulled himself out because even though he knows he's win, because of fraud. And he wants to make it his number one thing. Comes up with 18 bullet points on how we're going to do this. Each one of them making, the penalties worse. And I'm not opposed to making penalties worse. I don't believe that anybody's ever decided to commit fraud because the penalty was so light it didn't matter. But God, throw them all in jail. I'm good with that. But not one thing in his proposal has anything to fix the systemic problem that does exist in DHS or the state of Minnesota and its employees. God love them, most are probably okay. But there are very many who just say, get the money out the door as fast as possible because nothing's going to happen to me. And this, we'll have a couple steps after the break. He doesn't have one thing to fix this. Optum, his people said you save $1.7 billion if you followed the rules. He doesn't include that in his bill or his suggestions. Nothing's going to change here, Senator. And I hate to say that out loud, but nothing's going to change.
I have some thoughts on that if you need to
All
cut
right.
the commercial.
I see you're so good at radio. I do have to go to break. It's break time. We'll be back after this with Senator Julia Coleman on the Al Travis Show.
You need a friend at the Capitol who knows how to get things done.
And you're in luck because that's exactly who we are, your friends at the Capitol, and we deliver results.
At Momentum Advocacy, we bring decades of experience in lobbying, public affairs, and crisis communications.
From local nonprofits to national corporations, we help you move policy, manage your media, and make your voice heard.
We're not just seasoned pros, we're essential partners.
Momentum Advocacy, your friends at the Capitol. Learn more at momentum-advocacy.com.
Think about it. Now that school's back in session, how are Minnesota students doing? Not very well. Minnesota ACT scores fell again last year and are the lowest they've been in 10 years. In fact, fewer than half of Minnesota students can either read or do math at grade level. Think about it. We used to brag about our schools. Now we're losing to states like Mississippi. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
Don't need to ask him his opinion more than once. Al Travis on the Al Travis Show.
Oh, I'll throw it out there. It's Senator Julia Coleman with us. Senator, you were going to say something before we went to break.
Oh, yes. We were talking about the governor's massive plan to fix the fraud in the state. And it does make me chuckle a bit. My House member said it best when he saw one of the ideas for using AI to tackle fraud. And he said, that's a great idea. That's why I proposed it 2 years ago. And, if I were the governor, I would take a look at bills that are already introduced if we're serious about getting this done this year. Because keep in mind, he's going to have to find someone to write these bills. It's going to have to take a couple weeks at the revisor's office. And we're going to be in deadline in the next 3 weeks here. There's bills already introduced, like mine, that says we can recall commissioners, that you have to make a site visit before dispersing any grant dollars. We have Representative Nash's AI bill. We have OIG bills. We have so many oversight and protection pieces of legislation already in the works. that he doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. He simply needs to actually take the time to work with lawmakers who have been trying to get this done for years now. I think that would be the most effective way to show you are serious about working across the aisle to get this done.
Let me throw one in, if I may. May I?
Yes.
All right. First off, we make laws. No one's going to follow them. What the heck? So I like the idea to get rid of commissioners. I say if we can find any state employee who's not following the rules and regulations on purpose, we fire them. Because I don't know how hard it is. But we talk about the DHS people that fraudulently made up paperwork. That's got to be illegal. And if it's not illegal, it should be, and it's a fireable offense. But here's the one that gets me, that the government could fix tomorrow. This, according to Kristen Robbins yesterday, an individual was convicted of child care fraud. Convicted of child care fraud. She was caught at the airport, supposedly fleeing the country. This human still operates. Still operates an autism center and 2 assisted living facilities that we're paying for. I presume a governor with a couple Excel spreadsheets and a computer can find out when you're convicted, what else are you getting checks for from the other parts of our government, and stop it. You know what I'm saying? It's so much common sense, it's not even funny. If your next door neighbor is coming over and stealing your vegetables out of your garden, you're like, oh, nothing I can do there. He's not taking the carrots anymore. We're out of carrots. What are you talking about?
Absolutely. Furthermore, anybody convicted of a crime, I would have concern about you being in charge of childcare or autism centers, whether you're receiving state dollars or not. So this all seems like common sense, Al.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Common sense is not common in this government. We let it go on. He lets it go on. So you can make rules, but if they're not going to follow the rules, what does it do? One last one for you, if we can. Walz and Attorney General Ellison are going to be testifying in Washington this week. 2 things. What do you expect to get out of it? And 2, after the last time he did this, and he charged us, the people, I think it was $400,000 for attorneys to help him prep to have a conversation. You know, like if the truth wasn't good enough, I need somebody to help me with that. Are we getting charged for him and Ellison to get counsel about counsel before they go there? Again, I mean, is this what I'm paying for?
I would imagine that every single time they go to Washington to testify, there are attorneys that are being paid for to help them prepare. Although Ellison is an attorney, so I would hope that maybe his expertise would suffice.
And don't we have attorneys? Doesn't the governor have attorneys on staff somewhere? I mean, that's the Ellison. We pay attorneys all over this state. They can't help the governor prep?
What I imagine will come out of it is what's come out of it the last couple of times either of them have testified. A lot of anger and refusing to answer questions, and a bunch of clips that embarrass the state of Minnesota, unfortunately.
Well, I no doubt that's going to come. I guess I have time for one more. At one point, the governor, and this is on last time he testified, he mentioned that this was an organized mobster sort of thing that's going on in Minnesota. This is not easy. They're going after everything. This is organized crime. That organized crime is what he called it. Can I bring up one organized crime member that, you know, he had a 22-year-old out of St. Cloud, started Star Autism when he was 22. He got his college buddies and some teenage relatives to work for him. Nobody qualified to do anything. Within months, he was making millions of dollars. He sent $200,000 to Kenya. He had some employees saying that they worked 270 consecutive days, some working 23-hour days. These are hardworking kids. There weren't any autistic kids there. They were doing kickbacks to parents that would take it. The kid just pled guilty, stole $6 million from us. The kid did not finish. He got booted out of or flunked out of community college. This is an organized crime. And if a 22-year-old dropout from community college can get $6 million off of us with doing nothing more than saying, no, I'm an autism center, you got to trust me, we can do better than this. This is an organized crime. It's a knucklehead who somebody said, hey, you want to make easy money, do this. It's the 2 Pennsylvania kids who came from Pennsylvania because you heard you could print money here in Minnesota. It has to be harder than this.
I agree. And the fact that people come here to commit crime is exactly why I'm very hesitant about the new Department of Human Services pick that the governor has put in front of us, because she doesn't think it's a uniquely Minnesota problem. It is a uniquely Minnesota problem. We have rampant fraud. We have an industry of fraud. And I need somebody with that mentality and that kind of pit bull energy to go after it, heading that agency.
They actually came up with the word. What was it? Fraud vacations?
Tourism.
No. Fraud tourism. They came up with the term for Minnesota and how easy people came here to make their money. She doesn't have to be approved by you all, does she? Because if we're talking, it would be done by November. Does she have to be approved? I don't even know that.
I actually just put in a question about this because we did pass legislation that says 60 days, but that starts next year. So I was curious if any deadline there is going on now. I do know there's going to be questions raised about whether or not a confirmation will come before the Senate this legislative session. But, my goal at the end of the day with everything going on is I want to make Minnesota boring again. I want us to be the land of hot dish and hockey and have nothing embarrassing in the media, have just good old-fashioned government going on, and stop being kind of the laughingstock of the nation.
Well, good luck to you in that. I really do mean that. I appreciate you coming on. We're out of time. Thank you, Senator. I do appreciate it. Senator Julia Coleman on the